Hello everyone, back again with movie and tune recap. Today, I'm going to explain an American supernatural horror film from 2016, titled The Veil. Spoilers ahead, so watch out and take care. On March 23, 1985, outside the town of Hidden Lake, California, 47 members of a cult called the Church of Heaven's Veil died in a mass suicide, following the orders of their leader, Jim Jacobs. The only survivor was a 5-year-old girl named Sarah Hope, and 25 years later, Sarah is still haunted by the traumatic event. One day, she receives a call from a documentary filmmaker named Maggie Price, who wants to interview her about her time in the cult's compound, known as the Veil. Maggie has recently found old photographs that suggest there might be missing film footage showing what really happened, and she convinces Sarah to join her in searching for the lost tapes. Sarah travels to the Veil with Maggie and her film crew, which includes Nick, the gaffer, Matt, the cameraman, Ed, the grip, Jill, the sound operator, and the production assistant, and Christian, the editor, who is also Maggie's brother. During the trip, it is revealed that Maggie and Christian's father was the FBI agent in charge of the raid on the cult. The case affected him deeply, and he later took his own life, and this personal connection has driven the siblings to uncover the truth about Jim Jacobs and his cult. When the group arrives at the gate of the Veil, they are met by the property's current owner, Mr. Wheeler, who cryptically acknowledges Sarah before reluctantly allowing them inside. After unloading their equipment, the crew begins filming Sarah's reaction to being back at the site. However, she becomes overwhelmed by memories and visions, collapsing in distress. Later, the team sets up camp for the night, and Matt places a camera to record any unusual activity while they sleep. That night, Sarah struggles with nightmares of Jim Jacobs and the cult members. The next morning, the crew wakes up to find that Ed is missing, and when Christian reviews the surveillance footage, he sees strange, shadowy figures moving around Ed's tent. As they try to figure out what's happening, they also discover that their van is gone. With no other choice, Nick and Ed are sent to walk 16 miles back to town for help, while the others stay behind to continue the investigation. Sarah leads the remaining crew across the lake to a hidden house that once belonged to Jim Jacobs. Inside a room, they uncover a secret stash of the cult's old film reels, and Sarah accidentally falls through the floor, landing near a decayed corpse. After recovering from the shock, the group manages to get the house's generator running, and with the lights on, they return to retrieve the film reels. Maggie spots a videotape near the corpse, and the crew decides to watch it. They soon identify the body as Karen Sweetser, a missing cult member, and later uncover a shocking truth: Karen was Sarah's real mother. Determined to uncover more, the group watches additional tapes. The first video features Jim Jacobs, the quasi-Christian occult leader of Heaven's Veil, explaining how he discovered the secret to eternal life through alchemy. While the crew is outside, Sarah, who is inside the house, mourns her mother's corpse, and suddenly, she is attacked, but it turns out to be a terrifying vision. Later, Nick and Ed return to inform the crew after finding Ed's dead body behind the wheel of the crashed van, and the crew buried him. As they continue reviewing more tapes, they learn that Jim Jacobs had been experimenting with drug-induced astral projection, allowing him to cross into the spirit realm. During one recorded trance, he possesses a cult member and declares that he has freed the first of 3 bindings from her soul, and just then, the generator powering the house went off. When the crew investigates, they find the spark plug is damaged, and Nick volunteers to enter the house alone to search for a replacement. As Nick moves through the darkened house, he begins hearing eerie whispers, and suddenly, he is supernaturally attacked and killed by several syringes injected into his neck. Moments later, his corpse is reanimated, now possessed, and he head outside to meet Anne, and under the cult's supernatural influence, Nick kills her. Like him, she becomes possessed, and now controlled by Jacob's dark power. Nick and return to the others and sit down to continue watching the tapes, as if nothing had happened. In another tape, Jim murders Mr. Wheeler in front of his followers only to bring the man back to life as proof of his newfound immortality powers. In the next tape, Jim Jacobs is seen inside the cult's church, conducting another experiment, and this time, he injects a poison into his body to push himself further into the spirit realm. Something supernatural occurs, and his body begins to convulse, and desperate to save him, Karen administers an antidote, reviving him. When he wakes, Jim declares that he has successfully removed the second binding from his soul before the tape ends. Suddenly, the filmmakers begin to hear ghostly whispers throughout the house, convincing them that the place is haunted. As fear starts to take hold, Jill and Matt decide they've had enough, and despite Maggie's pleas for them to stay, they choose to leave. Meanwhile, the rest of the crew returns inside to finish watching the tapes, and determined to communicate with the spirits, Sarah holds a séance. To her shock, the ghost of her mother appears, and Karen tells Sarah that she must convince the filmmakers to stay at the house. Overwhelmed by the encounter, Sarah is left struggling with her mother's eerie demand. Meanwhile, as Jill and Matt make their way through the woods, they stumble upon Ed, who appears to be alive but badly injured. Jill stays behind to help him while Matt continues on foot to find paramedics. However, while Jill is distracted, Ed suddenly springs to life, and he drags her to the lake and forcibly drowns her. As Jill's body goes limp, her spirit is taken over by Karen, binding her to the cult's supernatural forces, and it is revealed Ed is possessed by Jim Jacobs. Back at the house, Christian watches the footage of Sarah's séance, and as the atmosphere grows more intense, Christian suddenly feels something touch him. Just then, he is stabbed by Anne, who is fully under the cult's influence, and stabbed him in order for him to become possessed, and she hands her weapon to Sarah. Unaware that the entire crew is now possessed by the cult members, Maggie sits with Sarah and the others to watch the final tape from the day of the mass suicide. In the footage, Jim Jacobs explains that the poison given to the cult members was meant to be counteracted by an antidote, allowing them to return from the dead. However, Karen objects to poisoning the children and helps young Sarah escape, and furious at her betrayal, Jim forces Karen to take the poison. With proof that resurrection is possible, the rest of the cult members willingly take the lethal dose, and one by one, they begin to die. Before Jim's follower, Sam, can administer the antidote to revive them, the FBI raids the compound. In the chaos, Sam is shot and killed, and without the antidote, the cult members die permanently. Before taking his final breath, Jim curses the agents and vows to return, and before the reel concludes, Jim tells the 5-year-old Sarah to wait for him. The horrifying truth is revealed: Jim Jacobs is Sarah's biological father, and Maggie realizes that her own father, who led the FBI raid, unknowingly doomed the cult by preventing their resurrection. Sarah turns to Maggie and calmly states that the spirits of the cult members have possessed the documentary crew. Maggie, who is confused of what is going on, is suddenly injected with a syringe by Sarah. Maggie fights her way out and manages to escape into the woods. However, the drug begins to take effect. Maggie collapses, slipping into a vision, and in her trance, Maggie sees the day of the mass suicide unfold before her. She regains consciousness, only to find herself nailed to a tree by Jim Jacobs. She screams, insisting that her father had no knowledge of the antidote, but Jim ignores her pleas. The next day, Matt returns with the police, and he has a vision of Sarah, who tells him that Jim will bring everyone back. Suddenly, all of the police officers, including Matt, are mysteriously killed off-screen. Jim then reveals his true plan: to consume the souls of the rest of the world. In the final scene, Jim raises the dead police officers, including Matt, back to life and declares that the cult has been reborn in their new bodies. Okay guys, that's all the recap about The Veil from 2016. Thanks for watching, see you again in the next video.